Hi guys, we are moving into medical law ethics and bioethics today. So this is the different book that you guys have purchased. Our objectives are to define law, ethics, and bioethics, explain the importance of medical law, understand the healthcare climate, and know characteristics of a professional employee, which I'm sure you have gone over before and over and over and over again, but you know what? It's important, and it's important that you understand. So we're doing it again. So law, I forgot that this slide was set up this way. Law are societal rules, regulations that are advisable or obligatory to observe. There are consequences if you do not follow them, and they are punishable by a government. Medical law determines how medical professionals are licensed, how medical care is paid for, and regulates federal health programs. So this is protecting both the client and provider relationship, and it also established standards for reproduction and birth issues as well as life and death decisions. Ethics. I'm just going to click till I get it all up. Is a moral principles that governs a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. This can be personal, organizational, institutional, or worldwide. This is sort of that code for how you behave in the facility or office or institution that you're at. Governs individual interactions, either with an individual and with society. These can be a little bit different for everyone. They can also be different at whatever facility you work at. A skilled nursing facility might be different than a home health, let's say. It is culturally bound, and what I mean by that is that it can change depending on age, gender, sexual orientation, ethnic heritage, life experiences, spiritual influence, role models, mentors, values, health, and illness. That's what it means by culturally different. And there is no universal truth in ethics because of the culture. It can change constantly. Bioethics, bio refers to life, so now we're talking about life ethics, ethical implications of medical treatment, technology, and procedures, and this is where you're finding the life and death issues. There are moral issues or problems in modern medicine and research because of how rapidly things are changing and how medicine and technology offer all of these different unique and overwhelming choices. We also tend to question our doctor more because of the technology and internet that we have access to. We are, as patients, are more involved in our care. And really, when you think about it, these are all interrelated. So the example that the book gives is the Roe versus Wade. Court ruled 7-2 that a right to privacy under the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, depending on protecting women's health and protecting the potentially of a human life, that women have the right. Here we go. It's too bad we're not in class talking about this because this topic I like to talk about respectfully and professionally in class because I feel like we can have a really good conversation about abortions. Let me just see what page we were on, sorry. So the U.S. Supreme Court addressed the issue of abortion in Roe versus Wade, 1973. The law states that during the first trimester, pregnant women have a constitutional right to abortions, and the state has no vested interest in regulating them at this time. During the second trimester, the state may regulate abortions and insist on reasonable standards of medical practice if an abortion is to be performed. During the third trimester, the state's interested override pregnant women's rights to abortions, and the state may deny abortion except when necessary to preserve the health or life of the mother. So if abortion is against your values, it may become an ethical issue for you. And it changes, like the law has been changing over and over and over again that it's been almost hard to keep up, and it's a continuous debate. And I know that this topic gets brought up and then it kind of fizzles out, and it's brought up and fizzles out. But it is a very interesting topic on who really gets to decide on that decision. So how important is the study of medical law, ethics, and bioethics? So we need to understand health law. What are our rules? we have what I'm sure you've heard of it. I've talked about it before, the State Practice Act that tells us what we can and can't do. That's our health law. There is a moral structure to one's actions, yours and your patient's. There are cultural differences affecting the morals, bioethical dilemmas, and also your own values, your own ethics. We need to know when we're having a bias towards someone or a prejudice in favor or against one thing, so we can work past that. And there also is a need to confront any bigotry, which is an intolerance towards those who hold different opinions from oneself, because that's an inappropriate way of behaving. Some relevant factors. Relevant factors to medical law, ethics, and bioethics. Society demands quality health care at minimal personal cost. And we all know how high health care is getting. It's astronomical. And I will give you an example. In the book, it talks about in 1940, a normal infant delivery cost $35 for 10 days of inpatient hospital care. Right. The delivering physician received an additional $35. In 1990, a normal delivery cost an average of $3,300 for a 2 to 3 day inpatient hospital stay. In 2005, hospitalization for a normal delivery and a 1 to 2 day hospital stay was $5,200. The factors affecting the cost could be because vaginal or cesarean, if there were any complications, or the length of the stay. But in 2010, the typical cost of a vaginal delivery without complications ranged from $9,000 to $17,000 or more. The typical cost of a cesarean delivery was anywhere from $14,000 to $25,000 or more. And I will tell you, when I had Reed in 2015, my hospital bill was $25,000. That's not what I had to pay because some of the insurance covered it, but it was an astronomical amount of money that I had to put forth that they were going to charge me had I not had that insurance. The debate over whether healthcare is a right or privilege. This is also another really fun topic that I like to talk to you guys about, just because I know that we can do it respectfully in the atmosphere we're in now. And also the equality in the distribution of that medical technology that you're getting. So who gets it or who deserves healthcare? Is it a right that everyone deserves to have it, or is it a privilege that you get for working? And making sure everyone has the right to any services or procedures, that equality in the distribution. So if I get a MRI and I don't have to pay anything, and then you guys get an MRI and you have to pay $1,000 for that MRI, is that fair? Is that equality in the distribution of any access technology? Am I getting the best services with the insurance that I have, or am I having to pick out of a lesser known doctor because that's what I'm paying for? It's interesting. There is conflict and greed among everyone in healthcare because it all comes down to money and who gets what. Between the doctors, the hospitals, insurance companies, and even politicians, it all comes back to who gets paid what. And I'm sure you've also heard about the HIV drug going from $13 to $700 in one fell swoop, just because he could, because he had greed and wanted the money. Also, EpiPen's increasing, but Narcan is free. So there is a big, strong debate going on about who deserves what kind of services. The healthcare climate or the healthcare environment has many challenges to the healthcare professional. Overabundance in information. And right now you're seeing it with COVID, with how many people are commenting on what it is, how to treat it, what are the symptoms, where is it coming from, who's susceptible, who's not. It's just an overabundance of information. You almost don't know who to believe or what to read. I stopped watching the news because I couldn't manage all of the information that was coming in. There are ethical committees that review ethical situations before or after they occur. Usually it's the FDA and DHHS to monitor, which is the Department of Health and Human Services. And they usually oversee and review any medical research involving humans. There is rapid advancement in technology. One more recent thing which I find fascinating is the Chinese researcher used CRISPR, or CRISPR, clustered, regularly interspaced, short, palindromic repeats. And that's to edit an embryo to protect them from HIV or AIDS. So they are genetically modifying that embryo so they cannot get HIV or AIDS. So where's the issue lie? Is that ethical? Not only isn't it ethical, but where does it stop? When are you going to stop genetically modifying it so they have blue eyes and blonde hair, or curly hair, or they don't get cancer? Where does that research actually end? An increasing number of specialists, which makes it confusing on who's in charge. Is it the neurologist? Is it the primary care? When my husband had surgery, the GI, the surgeon, and the doctor all couldn't agree on what was happening. So he was actually in the hospital longer because they couldn't agree on what was going on. Is that his fault? No. And then also the rapidly rising healthcare costs, which we've talked about. We've talked about code of ethics before. I am not going to read over this slide. Just understand that there are different codes. Some are more popular than others, but just read over them. So some characteristics of professional employees. Your high moral standards. Being clear, open, and honest with your patients, with your coworkers, with everyone that you're in contact with. Being knowledgeable about your beliefs and choices. Recognizing that there is a diversity in healthcare, being non-judgmental to your patients, and being comfortable in that servant role, understanding that you will be serving others in the position that you are going for. So also being skilled and educated, continuing education, not just graduating and being done, actually following through with your work, which is in your Practice Act as well, that you should be continuing your education, looking further, not just being content with what you've learned here, but actually learning more and more about what the field brings to you. Practicing in your scope, not misrepresenting yourself as a PT, maintaining confidentiality, which is the HIPAA, and also contributing to the community. And you thought I'd have you do those service hours for no reason. That is part of your service as being a PTA. So also a few final things. Being tactful, sensitivity to others, listens more than you speak, listening to what your patients are saying and taking everything in, being courteous and respectful, objective yet compassionate, and also more than anything, being caring and sensitive towards your patients. If you have any questions, please feel free to email. That was Chapter 1, Medical Law, Ethics, and Bioethics. I am happy to answer them if you need me. Thanks. Bye, guys.